Perfect.
There are very few shotguns in the world today that combine the incredible firepower, the light handling, the low recoil, and the reliability of the Saiga-12, a formidable contender for maybe one of the most effective close-range defensive weapon systems on the market today. These widely popular Kalashnikov pattern shotguns are available in many different configurations, ranging from pistols to choked goose guns and everything else in between. If you could only take one gun to the range to entertain a group of potential firearms enthusiasts, the Saiga-12 will win them over every time. No matter if they're a long-time gunslinger, a complete newbie, a full-size cowboy, or a petite lady, they are always sad when the ammunition finally runs out. The purpose of this 5-year review was to legitimately ascertain the true long-term reliability and function of this formidable platform in various configurations ranging from original manufacturer to heavily modified, equipped with various accessories and modifications. In this review, we intend to clarify the strong points and the weak points of this weapon platform and give you solutions and recommendations of how to get it to run like a champ. This review intends to focus on the analysis and enhancement of reliability, function, and ergonomics of the Saiga-12. We will cover the long-term reliability and function of the gun and some of its more popular feeding systems, reliability improvements when using low brass and low power shot shells. We're going to talk about ergonomic improvements and on the efficient operation of the Saiga-12. The Saiga-12 is a Kalashnikov pattern shotgun manufactured by the arms division of Izhmash in Russia. It used to be imported by European American armories until around 2005, and more recently by Russian American Armory and Wolf Performance Arms. Izhmash also manufactures 20-gauge and 410 bore shotguns as well, along with a lot of different other semi-automatic hunting rifles and a number of centerfire cartridges including the 7.62x39, the 308 Winchester, 223 Remington, and 5.45x39. The modularity, the reliability, and the extreme ruggedness of these Kalashnikov pattern weapons available in these various cartridges and bores have made them a popular choice amongst American enthusiasts who want a highly dependable yet low-maintenance firearm. The Saiga-12 shares some of the features with other similar Kalashnikov designs. It is a gas-operated shotgun with a rotating bolt, feeds from a box magazine, has the Kalashnikov pattern lever safety, it has the optic mounting rail on the left side of the receiver, and has a top-mounted dust cover held in place by the rear of the recoil spring assembly. Some of the features added to the Saiga-12 were an enlarged extraction port on the side of the dust cover, with the rear section of the bolt being covered by a sliding metal flap that rides on the recoil spring. Also, the extractor does not rotate but instead delegates the bolt locking function to a caliber neutral lug directly behind the bolt face. It also features an adjustable 2-position gas system in its original factory configuration. I have observed and recorded the performance of 5 Saiga-12 19-inch threaded barrel shotguns over a period of 5 years in a variety of conditions. 2 of these shotguns were heavily modified to enhance performance and improve ergonomics, 2 were eventually lightly modified to enhance ergonomics, and 1 was left completely unmodified. Each one of the 5 owners of these shotguns shared their experience and observations over the 5 years, and the performance of the main test guns was recorded via camera and studied both to qualify and to quantify the various results. The main goal of this test is to determine what level of reliability could be attained with inexpensive, low-brass target ammo, and to find which improvements in modifications would significantly improve their performance. So let's talk about reliability. Over the last 5 years, we fired thousands and thousands of rounds to the primary test gun to get a strong statistical idea of the reliability of the Saiga-12. Our results indicate that the reliability of the Saiga-12 varies dramatically depending primarily on which ammunition is being used. With the right choice of full power high brass ammunition, you can expect incredible AK-47 level reliability in extreme environments. And with the wrong choice of low power, low brass ammunition mixed with the wrong choice of magazines in a poorly lubricated new unbroken Saiga-12, it's possible to experience up to a 25% failure to extract. Like many other gas-operated firearms, ammunition and magazines are the primary limiting factors concerning reliability. However, it is possible to get great performance out of normally inadequate ammo with proper attention to certain details. With our slicked-up modified test Saiga, using the right magazines, we produced nearly 100% reliability for over 2,000 rounds of the test, even with the cheapest Winchester low-brass Walmart-style ammo we could find. So it all depends on what combination of the most critical components you put together. After our testing, we've come to the conclusion that the reliability of the Saiga-12 is contingent upon three primary factors, all of which are intimately related to each other within the fully operational system. Number one is the ammunition being used. Number two is the magazine being used. Number three is frictional issues, lubrication and break-in. And number four, kind of on a lesser scale, the gas plug and the configuration of the gas ports can have a significant effect as well, especially if the gun is lacking lube or is not fully broke in. So let's discuss the ammunition. This particular shotgun was kind of designed to use high brass ammo. The Saiga-12 accommodates both 2 3/4 inch shot shells and 3-inch magnums. The most reliable extraction and feeding occurs when using full power buckshot loads, which is kind of what Mikhail Kalashnikov designed the weapon around for use by the Special Forces Spetsnaz GRU. Most of the high brass hunting loads offer great performance as well. Also, when using full power ammunition, magazine selection becomes less critical, as there's plenty of power to slam the bolt fully rearward and eject the empty cases. When using these heavy 2 3/4 inch loads, ejection is not really an issue. When using heavy plastic case 3-inch loads, ejection is still good, but the longer empty plastic shells have a slightly greater potential to hang up on the way out sometimes. No failures to extract were experienced when using any of the full power 2 3/4 or 3-inch loads during any of the testing. So for serious self-defense applications, we can only recommend the use of high-quality, full-power buckshot or slugs loaded into 2 3/4 inch shells. For soft-bodied threats, we recommend the use of number 1 or even number 4 buckshot. That would be our top recommendation. For slightly more hardened targets, double-aught buckshot would be probably the best. For seriously hardened targets, slugs may be required. Now the focus of our test is really on the low brass performance. For most sporting applications, high brass premium buckshot ammo is too expensive and produces more recoil than may be wanted for having fun. Cheap, low brass bulk ammo is what a lot of folks who shoot the Saiga-12 want to be able to use, myself included. But this can present some challenges. Mikhail Kalashnikov expected this gun's users to either employ it for tactical apps or, in the case of the American marketed version, for hunting. Both of these applications typically require the use of high to medium power loads, so the gas system was designed accordingly. Although some low brass ammo seems to work fine, even in unmodified factory guns, some of the low brass rides on the borderline of failure to extract territory, especially if stiffer magazines are being used to feed them. The lack of power, even when the gas ports are opened up all the way, can result in failure to extract. Many folks who take their Saiga-12 out for the first time report excessive FTEs and quickly become frustrated. However, I gotta say that it's pretty important to understand the relationships between the ammo, magazine, and the lubricity of the bolt guide rails and how they affect each other. So let's quickly talk about some of the different magazine options. Over the course of this 5-year-long study, we tested and observed the reliability and performance of the Saiga-12 using a variety of ammo and several different magazines. We concentrated our testing primarily on these particular 5 feeding systems. First off, the original factory Izhmash 5-round magazine, the AGP Generation 2 10-round magazine, the Surefire 12-round magazines, the Alliance Armament Wraithmaker 20-round aluminum drum magazine,
One more spot.
and the MD Arms 20-round polymer drum magazine. Our general observation has been that the low brass loads are particularly sensitive to the magazine being used, and that too much spring pressure, mixed with the less than ideal orientation of the shells on the magazines and improper magazine fit, can all contribute to failure to extract and failure to feeds.
Failure to extract. Well, we're done. They're all shredded.
When using full power loads, all of the magazines tested worked great.
Right.
The issue with low brass shells is that there may not be adequate gas pressure to completely cycle the action if the feeding mechanism is contributing to too much friction, hindering the operation of the bolt while firing. The Izhmash magazines seemed to be designed for medium and high-powered hunting loads and thus displayed good reliability when using most high brass loads. There was, however, some sensitivity when using low brass, which seemed to produce too much pressure on the shot shell rubbing on the bottom of the bolt when cycling, and kind of led to some periodic malfunctions, especially on brand new guns that have not been fully broken. The AGP Generation 2 magazines we tested offered almost perfect feeding reliability, even with low-powered loads. A few issues related to cumulative frictional issues on bolt cycling were experienced using low brass ammo on brand new guns. However, after break-in, these seemed to be the most reliable box magazines that we tested. Spring tension was not too high to hinder bolt operation on low power loads, and yet positive feeding, even with mud in the magazines, was maintained for long periods of time. My primary test magazine suffered over 3,500 rounds of low brass ammo before its first cleaning. If you've seen our old reviews or range videos, you may have noticed we put this thing through the ringer. After 5,000 rounds of use, our AGP Generation 2 started to exhibit some very minor feeding sensitivity to extreme cold weather. Also, this was the magazine we let the newbies practice on, so the lips were damaged over the testing phase, but it's still running strong and exhibited greater reliability than other new magazines of different makes. So I would say the overall reliability of the AGP Generation 2 was excellent. The Surefire 12-round magazines we tested offered good reliability with high-powered ammo, but instigated some cumulative frictional issues in the system when using low brass ammo. The spring tension on these magazines proved to offer great feeding performance, but produced enough friction of the bolt group to retard the cycling and reduce extraction of low brass ammo, especially in new guns that have not yet been broken in.
Pringles can! Pringles can! Reload! Reload! Think of the children! Think of the children!
However, after break-in, the overall friction in the actions was reduced to where these magazines worked much better with low-powered ammo. A recommendation would be only to select these mags for use with full-power ammo. They might work fine with low brass on some guns after break-in, but are not really our primary recommendation. We were very excited to try the Alliance Armament Wraithmaker 20-round aluminum drum magazines, but performance was difficult to maintain, especially in dusty, gritty environments. The magazine's open design invited accumulation of grit, which seemed difficult to remove in the field and somewhat tedious to remove back at home.
Okay. I got you covered.
Yeah, some of these new guns are pissed. They're stiff. Also, the manufacturer suggests that performance of these mags is contingent upon the mag well specs of the gun itself, and recommended sending in the gun to have it serviced to work with the magazine. We tested 2 of these 20-round drums, and they both seemed to offer less and less reliable performance as time went on, even under clean conditions. Considering the cost of these drums, the open design, and the test performance, I have to suggest avoiding these for long-term serious use, although they are very cool. I really like the design, they're very stylistic, but not our top recommendation for drums. The MD Arms 20-round polymer drum magazines we tested have displayed surprising performance, even with low brass ammo in extreme environments. We could not really get these things to fail. Loading the drum is a little bit difficult at first, and although the spring pressure behind the follower seems extremely stiff, this magazine did not induce any of the cumulative frictional malfunction issues we saw in the other magazines. So in conclusion here, after testing, we found that the AGP Generation 2 mags and the MD Arms 20-round drums offered the best long-term performance when using a variety of loads ranging from light to heavy. So one thing to make note of when we're talking about these cumulative frictional issues that really cause your failure to extract and a lot of the malfunctions in the Saiga-12 platform, this is pretty much ammunition contingent, and it's not really an issue if you're using full power loads. Also, break-in does help to mitigate the cumulative frictional issues as well. As the shotgun breaks in, they do perform a lot better with lower powered ammo. And like we said before, if you use higher powered ammo, it's not even really that much of an issue. Another thing that is pretty important when you're considering the cumulative frictional issues is the gas plug and the configuration of the gas ports. And it varies quite a bit from gun to gun. There have been various different models of the Saiga-12, and you can look, some of these gas ports are designed with 2 ports. They look kind of like a snake bite if you look at the actual gas port. Some of them have 4 holes, and some people do drill those out. However, with use of shot shells, you got to be careful, especially when you're cleaning those ports as well. If you get in there with a dental pick or something to try to open up those holes, you can actually slightly deform the inside of those holes on the gas ports where they get into the bore region, and as the plastic shot cup flies down that bore, it can actually accelerate the gumming up of those gas ports if that plug is rubbing off on a sharp corner that you have accidentally created when you're using a steel instrument to clean those ports. You can accelerate the plastic buildup inside that gas port area, and that can actually be very counterproductive. So when you are cleaning the gas ports, I would strongly recommend being very careful, not using a steel dental pick or something like that, and perhaps the better way to go is to have more reliance on the solvent doing the work for you. And we noticed on the different test guns we had that this varies kind of a lot from the gun to gun. Some of them seem to really get helped out by the MD Arms V plug upgrade. And actually, on the Saiga-12 test gun that we did the most heavy modifications on, this one you can see here with the camouflage job, we ran this thing for over 7,000 rounds before we upgraded to the MD Arms plug. And when we did, it actually did increase the low brass performance a little better for extreme cold weather, which is where we were starting to experience some malfunctions, probably based on cumulative frictional issues and faulty magazines, because the main AGP Generation 2 test magazine we used had multiple thousands of rounds on it, and eventually was just kind of scraping up in the inside where the follower runs through, and that was causing frictional issues within the magazine, and it was not quite feeding as well. So in a nutshell here, if you want to concentrate on the reliability improvements, if you're planning on using low brass ammo especially, or other low-powered shot shells, the key is really cumulative frictional awareness. You want to pay close attention to your magazine selection. You don't want to have a magazine that has too much spring pressure. The spring pressure does increase the friction of the top shell riding underneath the bolt carrier group, as it's trying to extract the one in the chamber that just was fired. That bottom shell, if it's pressing up too hard due to an overpowered magazine spring, can cause enough cumulative friction that it can, on low brass ammo, kind of retard its extraction and cause a malfunction. Also, you do want to give this thing time to break in. And if you don't have patience to let it break in, you can get to polishing frictional surfaces. You do want to pay close attention when you're looking at all the different guide rails, exactly where the friction actually is taking place. You can spend a lot of time polishing stuff that actually doesn't ever come into contact with another part. And it looks like it should, but you want to pay close attention to where the finish is beginning to wear. Those are going to be your actual bearing surfaces, and those are the ones that you can maybe enhance the performance quicker by doing a little bit of polishing. You want to use nothing too aggressive. Jeweler's Rouge works good for the end job. A very light grade emery cloth can kind of help you to smooth out the finish a little bit, but you don't want to get too western with that stuff and completely change the configuration of the weapon. Probably the best way to let this go is an organic break-in process. Just shoot that thing more. It ages like wine. It gets better as you shoot it. And also, if you're an impatient person, you can also upgrade to a different gas plug. The MD Arms gas plug was very, very helpful on a couple of the shotguns, and that's a good way to increase your gas in the system. If you're using low-powered shot shells, the low brass stuff, you may have to upgrade the configuration to open up for those power of shells. Like we said before, Mr. Kalashnikov did not design this shotgun to be used with low brass. I don't think he foreseen that would be a way this weapon was employed. When he designed this, he had this for more serious applications in mind. So low brass is really something the weapon was not designed for, although it can be made to be very reliable with low brass, like we did when we paid attention to all these cumulative frictional issues. Of course, there are many different ergonomical improvements you can do on these shotguns. The standard shotgun is kind of nice in a way. The one as imported in its sporting configuration, kind of a standard hunting style shotgun, that is probably the handiest of all the designs. So for actual tactical applications, that is a pretty good way to go. It's not going to hang up getting out of the car. It doesn't look near as cool as some of the other ones, but it is a pretty handy configuration actually. You don't have pistol grips sticking off to increase the footprint of the weapon system. That being said, I do kind of prefer the classic AK-47 footprint and the configuration that the Kalashnikov originally had on this weapon before they're imported. When they are imported, they are converted over to the sporting configuration from Russia. And what they do is they move the trigger group farther back so that they can put on the sporting style stock. So if you want to return that to its original factory configuration, or its original Russian configuration that they use over there, you have to move the trigger group back forward, which actually requires the use of an aftermarket AK trigger group. And then you have to install a pistol grip, and there's some modifications that are required. You can watch our old Saiga-12 videos for how that can be accomplished. Yeah, just pay attention to your state laws, your federal laws, to make sure you're well within your legal bounds when you do any modifications on any of these weapon systems. As many of you are aware, these shotguns have been banned from import in response to Russia's aggressive actions in the Ukraine, and so the U.S. government has issued a number of new sanctions against Russian companies. Obama did this a couple years ago. It was Executive Order 13662. Directives are found within the list describe prohibitions on dealings with certain Russian companies, and Kalashnikov concern was one of those. So a lot of that Izhmash stuff, the Saiga stuff, you can't get new stuff anymore. Maybe the politics will change and the import ban will be lifted and the sanctions will be lifted. That's contingent upon international relations. With the new presidency, we'll have to see how that goes. Until then, there are still lots of Saiga-12s on the market. So if you were thinking about getting one, we hope that this video helps enlighten you on what to expect in terms of performance and reliability enhancement when you're operating these weapons with different kinds of ammunition. If you have any questions or comments, please post them, participate in the discussion, and we hope that this 5-year project was fun for you guys. We spent a lot of rounds, over 10,000 rounds on the main test gun, and thousands of rounds on the other guns as well. And so through much blood, sweat, and tears, that was our final conclusion. Stay tuned for the next review, guys.
be a babe. Now she waits, slumber, just dreaming. Hope that she kills instead of leaving with me. No, she's a minefield. She'll watch your body from the soul. Minefield, leave a big smoking hole. Minefield, please don't beat off my leg. Minefield, let me through, I beg.
Be afraid. Be very afraid.
Don't trust. What's that little round thing over there?